President Biden believes his son did not break any laws, but what is Hunter Biden accused of? Now lawmakers are demanding more records. Another city under China's lockdown is crippling Apple and Tesla products. Near Shanghai, the major manufacturing hub is stalling production, causing a global supply crisis. China and Ukraine's foreign ministers held peace talks on the phone, but questions arise over what Beijing truly wants. We take a look at what it's saying to its own people. And for those watching our full episode, China makes its biggest purchase of U.S. corn since May 2021. But why? Is a food crisis looming on the horizon? And Australia is arming itself. That's as one of its neighbors is opening the door for Beijing to station troops in the South Pacific. Also at the forefront, the United States. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A White House official says that President Biden believes his son did not break the law. That's after banking transactions between Hunter Biden and Chinese Communist Party-linked companies were confirmed last week. However, critics are asking whether the Biden family, including President Biden, is compromised by foreign interests because of these business ties. NDD's Cheney Wu tells us more.
In an interview with ABC News on Sunday, White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain said the president is confident that his son didn't break the law. That's after documents and messages from Hunter Biden's laptop referenced a deal that he pursued with a Chinese Communist Party-linked energy firm, for which he was paid nearly $5 million. This is according to the Washington Post, which hired 2 security experts to authenticate the laptop. Questions have long been swirling around the Biden family and their ties to businesses in China, Ukraine, and other countries. The laptop story was first reported by the New York Post in late 2020, before Twitter, Facebook, and other social media companies moved to limit its reach. Twitter locked the New York Post account for more than 2 weeks, claiming the outlet published hacked material. This was just prior to the 2020 election. The investigation surrounding Hunter Biden's laptop is ongoing, and in the meantime, the Secret Service is keeping Hunter Biden safe in a rented Malibu mansion at $30,000 a month in taxpayer dollars. That's according to an ABC report that cited unnamed sources. NTD is not able to independently verify these claims, and the White House did not respond to requests for comment before airtime. Critics are asking whether the president's son is compromised by foreign entities and whether the president is involved in these dealings. Cheney Wu, NTD News.
Several Republican lawmakers are demanding records of any communication between Hunter Biden and the White House, including both the Biden White House and the Obama White House. They sent letters to the White House last week. They wrote, if the Russian government is attempting to influence American policy in Ukraine by exploiting Hunter Biden's connection with his father, the President of the United States, the American people deserve to know it. Now, let's take a look at what exactly Hunter Biden is being accused of. Let's backtrack to the 2020 presidential election. That's when Hunter Biden's business dealings caught the public's attention. The New York Post reported on Hunter Biden's overseas activities in Ukraine and China. After that, one of his former associates, Tony Bobulinski, came forward about an alleged business venture between him, Hunter Biden, the president's brother, Jim Biden, and CEFC China Energy. The Chinese conglomerate has deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Bobulinski strongly suggested that the firm engaged Hunter to gain access to his father, Joe Biden, then vice president. Soon after, Twitter banned the sharing of links to the New York Post article, and Facebook limited the article's reach. Now, back to what Hunter Biden is accused of. It's not just China. From 2014 to 2019, Hunter Biden served on the board of a Ukrainian gas firm, Burisma Holdings, and for a reportedly high monthly salary. Reports note Hunter had no experiences working in that industry before, and the Ukrainian company itself was the subject of a corruption investigation in the country. Republicans and Trump accused Joe Biden of knowing about his son's role at the company. That's over Biden's public statements about getting a Ukrainian prosecutor fired when he was vice president under the Obama administration. This prosecutor was the one who was investigating Burisma Holdings. Joe Biden said this move was related to rooting out corruption that has long plagued the country. He also denied that he knew about his son's business dealings in both Ukraine and China. On the flip side, then President Trump became the subject of a House Democrat-led impeachment effort. That's after it was revealed that Trump asked Ukraine's president to look into the matter regarding the Bidens. Trump was then accused of being engaged in a quid pro quo scheme. Now, let's turn to the pandemic front. The recent virus outbreak in China's biggest city, Shanghai, has become a global story. Now, a neighboring city is also going under lockdown. Rising fears the lockdowns could trigger supply chain crisis in cars and electronic goods around the world.
Port delays and shipping gridlock. Shanghai's lockdown chaos is already hitting the global supply chain, and it's about to get worse. According to a report by Taiwanese media Commercial Times, a lockdown in the Chinese city of Kunshan is severely squeezing the global electronics supply. Bordering Shanghai, Kunshan is an important production center for electronics components. Now, with the new measures, laptop, TV, and Apple iPhone makers in Kunshan are going to have to alter their operations. That includes well-known contract laptop Taiwanese manufacturers Compal, Pegatron, and Winstron. Those companies might not be household names, but they make products for the biggest laptop brands like Apple, Dell, and Microsoft. More than 15 Taiwanese companies in Kunshan already reportedly closed their doors because of the lockdown. Several of them produce circuit boards and other components for consumers such as Apple and automaker Tesla. Last week, Tesla suspended production at its Shanghai auto plant. The automaker announced its production could not resume on Monday as it had hoped.
Right now, besides Shanghai, 4 other major Chinese cities are under lockdown due to the pandemic. Altogether, 55 million people are locked up at home. Northeastern China's Changchun city has already been under strict lockdown measures for almost 4 weeks. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi spoke with his Ukrainian counterpart in a phone call on Monday. Beijing said the call was made at Ukraine's request and repeated support for peace talks and ending the conflict. It was the first reported high-level conversation between the countries since March 1st, when Kiev asked Beijing to use its ties with Moscow to help stop the war. China's foreign minister said the key is to maintain lasting security in Europe and establish a balanced, effective, and sustainable European security mechanism, adding China stands ready to play a constructive role in this regard in an objective position. Ukraine's foreign minister showed gratitude in his tweet. Now, what about China's relationship with both Russia and Ukraine? Over the years, China has grown strong trade links with both countries. Ukraine is an important corridor for China-Europe trade. Reports say almost 80% of China's trade with Europe passes through Ukrainian territory. And Ukraine was one of the earliest signatories to China's Belt and Road Initiative. This decades-long project is China's worldwide infrastructure effort to gain influence across the globe. China is launching a campaign to shape students' understanding in the Russia-Ukraine war. It's happening in multiple Chinese provinces. A photo from the class slides is circulating online, titled "Why Russia Sent Troops to Ukraine." It lists 4 major aspects: the corruption of the Ukrainian government, that Ukraine's troops and Nazis slaughter their own people in the Donbass region, mass production of destructive weapons, and that NATO's eastward expansions compressed Russia's strategic space. In 2021, Russia accused NATO of wanting to approve Ukraine's request to join them. Russia also accused NATO of arming Ukraine and sending mercenaries to Donbass. The campaign also labeled the U.S. as the originators of the Russia-Ukraine tragedy. But the campaign doesn't seem to include any counter-arguments from Ukraine's side. The Secretary General of Asia-Pacific Elite Interchange Association in Taiwan believes the wave of a unified narrative on the Russia-Ukraine war is to legitimize Beijing's possible use of force against Taiwan in the future. Ukrainian officials said in the city of Bucha they found about 300 civilians who were executed. China's ambassador to the United Nations on Tuesday called the reports and images showing civilian deaths in Bucha very disturbing. Speaking at a Security Council meeting, he said China supports an investigation into what happened, but warned of a rush to justice. He also repeated Beijing's stance that sanctions on Russia are not effective in solving the Ukraine crisis. On Monday, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations said she will ask the General Assembly to suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council. Australia signs a trade deal with India. It will remove tariffs on most goods traded between the two countries. This comes as Australia seeks to reduce its dependence on its biggest trading partner, China. Diplomatic spats between the two countries have led to Beijing sanctioning certain Australian products.
We are opening the biggest door of one of the biggest economies in the world in India.
The trade deal removes tariffs on more than 85% of Australian exports to India, worth around $9.4 billion. And the deal will cover 91% of Australian exports over the next 10 years. Tariffs will be scrapped for Australian exports of lamb, lobster, wool, copper, coal, alumina, and some critical minerals. The deal also removes tariffs on 96% of Indian exports to Australia. Both countries will continue to work towards a full free trade agreement. Australia has been trying to diversify its export markets and reduce its dependence on China. China was the biggest importer of Australian goods last year, and Australia sold more goods to China than to the next 9 countries combined. Diplomatic spats between Australia and China have led to Beijing sanctioning certain Australian products. Many of the goods are covered in Australia's trade deal with India. Beijing's sanctions came after Australia appealed for an investigation into the origins of the CCP virus in 2020. Australia and India signed the trade agreement during a virtual ceremony held by their trade ministers and witnessed by their prime ministers. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison faces the general election in May, and he currently lags in the polls. But Trade Minister Dan Tehan says he's confident that trade negotiations would advance even if there's a new party in power.
China, Russia, and the West are battling to get India to take their sides amid the war in Ukraine. Western nations also want India to join them in countering Beijing. India did not condemn Russia for invading Ukraine, and when the West levied sanctions on Russia, India bought even more oil from Russia. Russia is India's biggest source for weapons, which India needs amid its conflict with Beijing. Last week, the foreign ministers of Russia, China, and the UK visited India. Japan's prime minister also met with his Indian counterpart last month. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We are now sharing a shortened version of our program on YouTube. Full episodes can be watched on our partner platform, Epoch TV. Please click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you tomorrow.
Every once in a while, something comes along so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. So beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
The performance was enchanting.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
It touches you. It really does.
The expertise of the dancers was really, really strong.
To know that it was live music was really fantastic.
We didn't want to miss this.
Make sure you see it.
Have to come. Life-changing.